Hey, Raghavi, do you think that you would make a good queen?
No.
Really? Why?
I don't think I have it in me to be the person who gets guillotined if things go wrong. That's not my style. I want to be the guillotiner, whatever. That word. Yeah.
I think I would take the guillotine route. Like, it's shorter, but you get a lot more riches and like parties and lots of cake, and then whatever, someone kills you.
Yeah, but then what if you were just like 12-year-old queen? Like, because you were forced to marry at like 9 or something.
That'll be the best 4 years of my life.
Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime?
Well, we're here to tell you there's misconduct all the time.
Women are thieves and murderers,
That's gross misconduct.
con artists, money launderers,
Criminal misconduct.
financial fraud that's hard to track,
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
even breaching a contract.
That's more civil, though.
Misconduct, misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck, things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast about female criminals, both from the present and also way back in history. I am Raghavi.
And I am Nisha. And on today's episode, we're talking about Zeenat Mahal, the last Mughal queen, married to, obviously, the last Mughal emperor of India, Bahadur Shah Zafar. So very little is known about Zeenat Mahal, mostly because at the time of her husband's overthrow by the British forces in India, the country's attention was not really on her. The Mughals were dealing with their empire breaking apart, a lot of political strife within the palace itself. Externally, there were other forces that the Mughals had to deal with, like the incredibly strong Maratha Empire that took away Mughal lands constantly in the Deccan.
Yep.
And really, there wasn't all that much to focus on. Well, the third wife of the Mughal emperor at the time, who happened to be Zeenat Mahal. But she did not care one bit that no one paid attention to her, because she had just one goal in mind. That somehow, hook or by crook, she is going to get one of her children to the Mughal throne of India. Even if that involved directly violating the emperor's rule, even if that involved just saying F you to the British and their laws on succession, and even if that meant killing people in cold blood to get it.
Damn. You know what? It may sound a little eerie and spooky, like the way Nisha said it especially, but I kind of stand this queen. I mean, at the very least, to the extent that I get what she was trying to do. But sort of as we go through it, we'll realize she may have been kind of not super smart about it all. Yeah, but she didn't give up. I have to give her that much. Even if nothing went in her favor, at the very least, she was like, somehow I'll persevere through it. So I'll give her that much.
Yeah, it's sad that she doesn't get her way, I guess, or just like a bunch of bad decisions that end up, you know, with her
Nowhere.
sadness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
actually, not even nowhere. She eventually, you know what? We'll let everybody know.
Yes.
She eventually ends up somewhere,
Yes.
but it's not where she thought it would be.
So before we start, our usual disclaimers: this podcast is not meant for children. Listener discretion is advised.
That's right. And now you know what time it is.
It's context setting.
Yeah, but you are doing it.
I might get fun. Okay. So we are in the mid 1800s in India. The British East India Company has landed in India about 250 years ago. And because they were just relentless bastards, they refused to leave.
It's fine. It happened several years ago.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
They still have our stuff.
Oh, that's true. That's true. They do.
They took over the country's lands, administration, crops, labor, and even its tax policies. But they were at least a bit smart about it. They chose to slowly and steadily support just the right kingdoms to get the leverage that they needed, because they knew, even back then, that India was so divided. Its people so linguistically different. Its lands so geographically unique. Its cultures and practices so specific to religion and region that the best way forward was divide and conquer, and you can occupy India. So the earliest uprisings happened in Tamil Nadu and Kerala in the mid 1700s, moving slowly upwards to Hyderabad, then further to eastern India and Bengal and Jharkhand, and towards the end of the 1700s and through most of the early 1800s.
Right.
During this time, the revolution spread westwards as well. That's towards Mysore and the Marathas. But they were all scattered independent movements, nothing cohesive for all of India, so to speak.
Oh, actually, since we're talking about the southern states being part of this, there's actually a Tamil queen of the city called Sivaganga, whose name was Rani Velu Nachiyar. So she apparently was one of the leading female freedom fighters of the late 1700s. And apparently, here's the deal. I mean, I don't know how she got the time to do all of this, but she was skilled in Silambam and Valari, both of which are South Indian martial arts styles. She could ride like a horse, like well, not like side saddle. She could ride it well. She knew archery. She was skilled in sword combat, and she was fluent in English, French, and Urdu. And of course, I mean,
Girl,
Tamil.
what?
Yeah.
But that's surprising for a Tamil queen to be fluent in like Urdu?
Yeah,
Where did
I
she
mean,
pick that up from?
I would presume because, the Deccan kings were around for a
Right.
while, right? So Urdu would be a very, I'm surprised she didn't also know Persian because that just makes sense from that point of view. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I'm also just going to outrightly assume that she knew Marathi and Bengali. I don't know. I'm just going with it
Probably.
because it's all the same. So.
Hey, did you just say Marathi and Bengali is the same?
No, I mean, honestly, if you know a South Indian language really well and just by pure phonetics, and honestly, if you're good at languages, it's not that difficult.
To pick up Marathi and Bengali?
Yeah.
You can understand Bengali?
I mean, yeah, I can. Okay, actually, it might be context clues that I'm catching on to.
I think so.
Damn it. Man, I thought I was a polyglot. Thanks, Nisha. Let's move on.
Okay, so in the 1800s, we saw northern states starting their own movements. These were also pretty scattered until we hit 1857. So this was a revolt that was sparked almost entirely by the British refusal to, give a single shit. So the British army employed millions and millions of local Indians, and significant majority of them were either Hindus or Muslims. Hindus do not consume products made from cows, and Muslims were forbidden from consuming anything made from pigs. At least that's what their religion tells them.
Yeah.
Now, this is a very well-known fact. The Britishers knew it as well. And yet they decided to use cow and pig fat into cartridges that were supposed to be used with a new rifle called Pattern 1853 Enfield. The Indian soldiers needed to bite the cartridge with their teeth before loading them into the rifle. So they were basically ingesting the fat of the animals that they were barred from eating from their religions, right? So I believe that this was most accurately represented in Amir Khan's 2005 Mangal Pandey.
Yeah, what a revolutionary movie that was. Actually, no, I think by that point, unfortunately, I got really sick of these period pieces that were based in the British era. I don't know. It just got a little too much. It became. I mean, Lagan was great. It was 17 hours long. I had my fill of Amir Khan from that.
Funny story. I haven't seen Lagan, but I have seen Mangal Pandey.
Oh my God. I can't. Guys, we are not doing a season 5 because this was I can't. I physically can't.
I can't watch cricket for that long, man. I can't even watch normal cricket.
Did you watch Chak De India?
That's not cricket.
I mean, it's clothes. It's a stick and a ball. I don't know.
You're going to get cancelled. Okay? You're going to get cancelled by Bengalis, by Marathis, by anyone who likes hockey.
Don't say that, man. Sorry. You do your thing. Sorry.
So, aside from this, the Indians were generally unhappy as well. They were not getting paid well.
Yeah.
The Britishers were being racially discriminatory. People were dying left, right, and center of neglect and famine. And they felt that their lands and their kings were being phased out without their consent.
Smells like a revolt.
Yes, and a revolt is exactly what they got. So on 10th May 1857, a revolt broke out in the barracks at Meerut, with Indian sepoys turning on their commanding British officers and killing many of them.
I just thought that was appropriate, but again, I'm wrong. Go on.
You're going to get cancelled by 1857 British rulers.
Wow, no, you know what? Bring it. Come.
Yeah, I know. That one I'm okay with.
That one I'm okay with. Let's take to Twitter.
So the revolt reached Delhi in just a matter of a day, where a group of these rebellions set fire to the tax office of the East India Company. They went on to kill many British, European, and Christian people in the city. And then they went to the Red Fort in Delhi to seek an audience with Bahadur Shah Zafar, or Bahadur Shah II. He was the last ruling Mughal emperor, although his powers had been greatly diminished by this time, both by the British and by other warring kingdoms in the north. The rebels, however, wanted to crown him as the king of India, and Bahadur Shah accepted their offer.
Fair.
They obviously did not ask the South, because when do they ever?
Yeah, less fair.
But with that acceptance, Bahadur Shah was proclaimed Shahenshah-e Hindustan, which is a really cool name. This was the name that the rebels gave him on 11th May 1857.
I mean, it's no Jalaluddin, but I get it.
I was just gonna say.
There's something, I don't know why, it's just so weird, right? Because if someone says, not that everybody says Jalaluddin casually to me during the day.
Yes.
But if it ever comes up, which comes up at least once a month, because that's how often I watch Jodh Akbar. But when it does come up, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah, man. That's
like
a cool name.
It's such
I like
a cool
that
name.
movie.
Like, I feel like, oh, I feel so manly. I don't know what it is.
This is slowly veering into Andrew Tate territory.
Yeah. Shahenshah-e Hindustan.
Yes. So with all of this happening, it sparked a pretty extensive revolution that actually did unite a chunk of India, surprisingly.
Yay.
From Meerut to Delhi to Bihar, Bengal, Awadh to Punjab, Rajasthan, Kanpur, Maharashtra. I can name more places, but you get the picture. And that's the overall political atmosphere leading up to the 1860s. So it's all charged with anger, contempt for the Britishers, and like a thirst for justice for their homelands.
Oh, Jalaluddin! I'm feeling it. I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, this atmosphere is really what Begum Zeenat Mahal was used to, because Zeenat was born in 1823 in Faizabad, which is in the princely state of Awadh, which, as Nisha mentioned, is one of the princely states that joined the revolution. And now Awadh actually holds very significant historical value for the north. It's always been part of the Mughal Empire. But as the empire started to decline and decentralize, a lot of local rulers in Awadh started asserting their autonomy. And the area broke into smaller independent states. So eventually, when it all came together, for the revolt, it was a pretty big deal. In 1764, though, Awadh fell into the hands of the British after a series of battles. However, where Zeenat was born, which is Faizabad, it was a really rich city with the wealthiest princess ruling it.
Ruling. That's a delicate word, because the Nawab of Awadh had almost like a puppet-like role with the British around. So
that's true. But that's the kind of atmosphere that Zeenat grew up in, where we can sort of see that she felt this weird sort of control by the British. But, there really was no political stability at that point. And all the locals would hate the British, obviously. And obviously, Zeenat saw this world where, like all of her rulers, her true rulers were uprooted and many people's livelihoods were taken away. So it would have really had some sort of an impact on her,
Of course.
Zeenat was actually born as Begum Sahiba Zeenat Mahal, and she was in fact born into an aristocratic family. There's a writer called William Dalrymple who wrote the book called The Last Mughal. And he really has, done a deep dive on Zeenat and came up with just nothing.
Oh, so when he said the last Mughal, he just meant Bahadur Shah, not Zeenat.
Not Zeenat. He was not referring to her. In fact, I did a search for something that referenced Zeenat Mahal outside of random WordPress articles.
Yeah.
And when this came up, I was like, okay, if it's about Bahadur Shah, there should be some impact that Zeenat would have had in all of this, but he doesn't really get into it.
Right.
The early years, at least. But we do know, on 19th November 1840, Zeenat was married to Bahadur Shah, and she was 18 while he was 64.
Wow. He's just like 1800s Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, no. Quite, that's pretty much exactly right. She also happened to be his third wife, but very soon she attained the position of his favorite wife. So congrats to Zeenat. Zeenat's aristocratic background also, and her general delicate sensibilities, the attention that she gave to art and entertainment and managing the Mahal generally, all that stuff really impressed Bahadur Shah. He was also apparently very engaged with her because she was very quick-witted And this sort of gave in to how influential she became within the palace and how much Bahadur Shah sort of elevated her within the palace as well. Now, Zeenat will continue to be his favorite wife till his death, but that's way later. Bahadur Shah did marry other women and took on more concubines, but she would still remain his favorite overall. Now, Zeenat had one son, Mirza Jawan Bakht, who was born in 1841. Now, he was her first and only son, so attachment on some level, right? Mirza Jawan, however, was the 15th son of the emperor.
Oof.
Yeah, way down the line. It's not even heir and spare. It's heir and that one bolt that you have in your toolkit, hoping one day it'll come to use.
Yes, correct.
Basically, yeah. So by all laws of succession, whether Mughal or British or I don't know, whatever it is, the emperor's oldest living son, whose name was Mirza Fakhru, was supposed to be the heir to the Mughal throne. And Jawan Mirza really had nothing there.
Yeah, I know you mentioned 15th son, but overall, Bahadur Shah had a total of 16 sons and 32 daughters.
Nice.
With his last son being conceived when he was 70 years old.
Nice. Also, I say nice, but I mean... So, yeah, it's it's stressful. Now, in the years that followed, Zeenat grew to really enjoy her position as the chief consort of Bahadur Shah. She obviously had immense influence in the Mahal because, she would be the one pushing out the practices that all the other consorts and the concubines had to follow. But she wanted more. So she kind of wanted this covert political power that a lot of consorts got the chance to exercise. But remember, they exercised political power at a time when their king husbands had actual power.
Yeah.
So this is a slightly different time when it's not exactly the same. Now, in the Mughal royal court, eunuchs or Khwajasaras were men whose sexual organs were either removed or non-functional. Now, they held very high positions as the royal families, usually servants or administrative officers. And their socially ambiguous position at the time sort of ensured that they could be part of, Mughal public offices as well as the harem. So there's a chief eunuch in Bahadur Shah's court called Mahbub Ali Khan. And he basically became Zeenat's sort of liaison, between the court versus the harem. And Zeenat was very tight with Mahbub. He was literally her confidant and friend. And over time, Zeenat had used her relationship with Mahbub to participate in palace intrigue. And she learned about gossip. She learned about who in the harem was conspiring against her and how to get rid of them. She did a lot of work to figure out who exactly Bahadur Shah was going to appoint as an heir. And she also tried to figure out how to get the rest of the courtiers to support her own agenda. So just a lot of background, puppeteering. Does it work? I don't know. We'll find out. Mahbub also kind of becomes her enforcer. So she used to spread word of her good nature, how smart she is, how politically vicious she is. And also he used to carry out some acts that may have silenced some dissents, maybe.
So this is actually very similar to Princess Arsinoe from Egypt, who was the sister of King Ptolemy and Queen Cleopatra. Yes, both of them. They are all related.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They are all...
Correct. They're all siblings.
That's also from a different time. At least we have grown past that to only marry children. I don't know. Don't cancel me.
Let's go back to Zeenat.
Yeah. So Zeenat also learned that she was, pretty respected amongst a lot of the courtiers, and some of them also feared her. And man, narcissists be narcissisting because that information went right to her head. And she started having some thoughts, if Zeenat is the most favorite of the wives, then shouldn't her son be the emperor's heir?
Uh-oh.
But you know what is my favorite, Nisha?
Boba?
Oh, yeah. I would love some bubble tea right now. No, but also, these other podcasts that are on the IVM network.
Nice. Let's go listen. Welcome back after the boba break. So we've been talking about Zeenat Mahal and basically the idea of, hey, am I the villain? Am I the drama? I'm not the drama. So that's where she's at right now. So let's talk about Bahadur Shah Zafar and Zeenat Mahal's son, Mirza Jawan Bakht. Turns out the kid was kind of spoilt.
Oh, no.
Yep. Yeah. He was the apple of his mother's eye, and he was never berated for any wrongdoings. And since his mother was the chief consort, he was barely ever disciplined by anyone else.
So sad.
You know who? You know what he is, right?
What?
Adhiga Prasagi.
Oh my God, we haven't said that word in so long. Because I haven't met my mother in a while.
Yes. If any of our mothers were present at this time, slaps. So he was the 15th of 16 sons of the emperor, although the only son of Zeenat. He also took little interest in his studies. He preferred spending money on lavish things instead. For his wedding, which was to Zeenat's niece,
Sure.
it is said that the celebration was so grand, Bahadur Shah had to borrow money from lenders in Delhi just to keep up with the festivities that went on for over a week.
What? 15th. He's 15th.
Yes, the dude had like cocktail night, mehendi night, haldi, the thing in between haldi and whatever else is there.
Did you
I
say
don't
Mehendi
know.
yet? Because that one.
Yes.
Yeah. What about the one where they come on an elephant or a horse?
Bharat.
Sure, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Clearly, we have not been to enough North Indian
No.
weddings.
What about that other one where the dad gives you a safari suit? Is that the same thing?
I feel like that's a like dowry scene that happens on the side.
Sorry.
Please,
I hope.
please invite us to more weddings.
Yeah, I hope Mirza Jawan got a good fridge out of it at least.
Oh, God.
It's the least he could get.
Yeah, because he expected to be showered in like gold, precious stones, lavish gifts, and he got them all. So maybe even that fridge.
Do you think he got one of those fridges where you press a button and ice comes out?
I think he got one of those fridges which is actually like a TV and you can see what's going on inside instead of having to open the fridge.
Oh,
I
see
know.
what's going on inside. Like,
Yes. There's a camera. You can see from outside what is inside the fridge. You don't have to open the fridge.
nice.
Yeah.
I kind of want it.
Don't be spoilt. That is this guy's job.
Yeah.
So he was so spoilt and so selfish that he only had a few supporters at the court other than his parents. But Zeenat Mahal did not really see this side of him. Instead, she believed that Mirza Jawan deserved the throne after Bahadur Shah and that it was his birthright due to her own superior position as a consort.
Wow, what a lovely, nice, deranged
Yes.
lady.
But in contrast, we have the emperor's older living sons. There was Mirza Fakhru, who was the crown prince. He was born in 1818. He was expected to inherit the Mughal throne. He was talented, popular poet, historian. He was definitely well loved by the court. Like amazing Shadi.com profile.
Nice.
But Mirza Fakhru would eventually die from a prolonged illness and fever in 1856, and no one would really know the cause of his death.
Or wouldn't they?
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. I don't know why we did that. We could just add the musical
No,
thing.
never. We
Fine,
must. Dun, dun. Mirza Mughal was the emperor's fifth son, but he was born to a consort who was a Sayyida or a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His aristocratic birth and high societal position made him a very senior figure in the court. Zeenat saw that he was becoming very influential and decided to take the boy under her wing.
All right.
After Mirza Fakhru's death in 1856, Mirza Mughal happened to be the next surviving son and they made him the heir apparent. This, however, did not sit well with Zeenat because now she saw him as a threat and then she just like blocked him.
Okay. Cut.
IRL.
IRL. Well, you know what? There was actually another influential figure at court. This was an Englishman, and his name was Sir Thomas Metcalfe. What is that for?
I've heard this name. In
Have
history
you?
books. Yeah.
Oh, we must have. I don't know. It's possible. I genuinely can't remember because I was sleeping through most of that. Anyway, he was a senior administrative officer at the East India Company, which basically meant he got his orders from the English government. He also happened to be the Governor General of India during Bahadur Shah's reign. And that meant he was basically England's representative in the imperial court of the Mughal ruler. So his counsel was essentially taken by the emperor. And, you know, like how any other royal courtier would have. Actually, to be fair, his counsel was mandatory.
Very nice.
Because if the emperor didn't listen to him, it was basically like,
Treason?
well, yeah, what can the emperor really do? He's barely an emperor at this point. Now, Zeenat hated this dude, like really hated him. for many reasons. For one, he stayed at the palace, amongst the royals for a large chunk of when he was there. This annoyed her because, who is he? And also, he didn't earn that right. He was a foreigner, right? He also meddled constantly in palace affairs. This meant, the emperor was basically locked up in the Red Fort, and he sort of restricted the emperor from making any major decisions with regards to the kingdom. And he sort of became the Mughals' puppet master of sorts.
Yeah, so I understand that no nobleman from any land outside Delhi could even visit the emperor without Metcalfe's permission. And if he wanted to exercise a right over his own property, like getting revenue or imposing tax, he had to get permission from the British courts.
Yeah, there's actually also a story about how Zeenat and the other consorts, they wanted to present some gems from the crown jewels to visitors, but she first had to take permission from Metcalfe, and she was just ugh!
It's her stuff.
It's her stuff, I know. And the thing is, there was another time when Bahadur Shah and Zeenat had actually gifted a horse and 8 gold mohurs to a nobleman who had visited for Mirza Jawan Bakht's wedding. Metcalfe actually made the nobleman return the gift. Because, and this is their logic. He said, if you take a gift from the king, it's the same as swearing fealty to a foreign king. This nobleman technically was a British subject.
Yeah, I haven't read them personally, but apparently Bahadur Shah would vent his frustrations and humiliation over this by writing poetry. He often referred to himself and his consorts as birds in golden cages.
Yeah, I mean, he had a way with words at the least. There's actually another reason why Metcalfe was universally hated. He kind of always had his eye on the treasures in the land of the empire. So the thing is, he took away property from the locals to build himself something called the Metcalfe House. It was basically this massive sprawl of an estate that was built over agricultural land that originally belonged to the people of Gurjar village, and the villagers were pissed off.
Yeah, also I learned something kind of hilarious. The name of his bungalow was Metcalfe House, but it was hard to pronounce for the locals, so they just called it Matka House.
Sounds about right. The thing is, he also used to use a lot of artists to render him these massive paintings of these panoramic views of Delhi and the Red Fort and the palace quarters. And then he gave all of them to the British government. And then he didn't pay the artists all that much. Yeah, all of these paintings are still with the British Library, by the way.
Oh my God. You know what? I don't want to be crude, but they can all just suck my...
Yeah, Metcalfe was genuinely terrible. The other thing about Metcalfe was he was basically charged to negotiate a settlement of sort with the Mughals, because the idea was that the royal family should, not be able to inherit the Red Fort or any of the other lands attached to it. Basically, he wanted Delhi to go to the East India Company. That was his singular goal. Right. Now, Zeenat came to know about this because by this point, she had a very elaborate network of spies. And, from various sources, she figured out that Metcalfe was kind of he didn't really like the family, I guess. So apparently, Metcalfe was also really nice to Bahadur Shah to his face and pretended to have a lot of affection for him in public. But when his back was turned, Metcalfe said, and I quote,
Oh, please. Can I quote?
Okay, but behave.
Never.
Fine. Okay, go ahead. Quote.
Zafar is mild and talented, but lamentably weak and vacillating, and impressed with a very erroneous notion of his own importance.
Yeah, that was great. You killed it.
Yeah, which is exactly what Zeenat tried to do.
Oh, shit. Heavy.
So it's highly likely that she poisoned him.
How likely though?
99% likely.
That seems very likely.
So here's what went down. In 1852, there was a bit of a faction divide in the royal court. That's when Zeenat came out publicly and refused to recognize Mirza Fakhru as their heir apparent. Metcalfe was charged to maintain the peace, so he tried to broker some sort of deal. But Zeenat just refused to budge.
Right.
Frustrated with her antics, he decided to support Mirza Fakhru instead.
Well,
in fact, this would probably make it harder for the two factions in court to ever get along, and it could lead to the end of the Mughal line once and for all. So I guess win-win for him.
Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Metcalfe, along with 2 other senior officers, Sir Henry Elliot and Mr. Thomason, helped forge a settlement with Mirza Fakhru to ensure that he would sit on the throne after Bahadur Shah.
Right.
However, by 1853, the settlement broke because Metcalfe, Elliot, and Thomason all died quickly in succession.
What? Did they die of the same thing?
Yep, they all had the same symptoms and they were all quite healthy prior to their deaths. In fact, Metcalfe was just 58 years old at the time of his death.
What? Was it like an instant poisoning or something?
No, it actually took many months.
Oh.
So Metcalfe first suspected poisoning towards the end of summer of 1853. By the time the monsoon began, he was horribly sick.
Oh.
So for weeks on end, he would be vomiting with no respite. He was also slowly getting dehydrated. So we have some diary entries that his daughter Emily had written. I'm not going to do the ridiculous accent because I don't know what she was up to.
Fair, yeah.
So he was looking thin and ill, so white. He continually suffered from sickness and irritating vomiting of watery stuff. The smallpox marks on his face, generally very slight, became more pronounced. It was easy to see that he was ill, though he suffered no pain whatever. Although I don't know can you say if he suffered no pain? Maybe he was just being macho, just doing that, I'm all right, dear. Don't you worry.
It's very probable that he was.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. From what I know very little about him, so I don't know why I presume that. But I'm just saying from like general overall masculinity, it's very possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Emily also believed that someone at the royal palace was behind this sudden illness that her father faced.
Oh.
In her own words, here was a powerful clique in the palace who was straining every nerve to prevent the heir apparent giving his adhesion to the proposals of government. This clique was headed by the queen, a clever, wicked woman. Her rage, therefore, when she heard that the heir apparent had consented to the arrangements was unbounded, and she was determined to take her revenge. My father knew her character well, and that she would not let any obstacle stand in the way of her ambition. My father knew also that her revenge would not stop.
Wow. So I presume this was Zeenat, right?
Yeah.
This queen.
It's actually a really pretty way of describing.
It's pretty heavy, dude. She sounds like a Disney villain.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why. Because in my head, I had, what's her name?
Maleficent.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of also had Ursula.
Oh, maybe. Or maybe like the Queen Mother from Snow White. Okay, why are we doing this?
Oh, no, the better Queen Mother from Tangled, the gaslighting one.
She's scary.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like I just really like Disney villains more
Yeah.
than the
they're amazing.
princesses.
Because they have goals and ambitions.
That's true. I agree. Wow. Should we do a whole episode just on that?
Dude, that's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, I can
Stay
hear in
tuned.
Nisha's like tone inflection that she's like got this bulb that just went bling on her head.
But Zeenat.
Yes.
So by autumn of 1853, Metcalfe's digestion system had disintegrated so much that he was never even able to eat. He was basically just withering away. And not too far away, Eliot and Thomason were reporting similar symptoms as well.
Yikes.
Thomas in particular was clearly going to die in just a few days. So Metcalfe passed away on 3rd November 1853. It was believed by British forces that the poison was vegetable based and prepared in a way that there was no trace left behind. The Brits also believed it was an ancient technique employed by Muslim hakims who were physicians practicing in the community. By the end of that year, Eliot and Thomason had died too.
Okay, you know what? I don't feel too bad.
We basically crapped on him for the past 45 minutes. So
We did. But I mean, it's also, as an Indian, I physically cannot care. But what happened with Mirza Fakhru, and also is he now the heir?
So Bahadur Shah never changed his mind about his oldest son actually, despite Zeenat nagging him constantly.
Right.
But sadly, about 2 years after Metcalfe, on 10th July 1856, Mirza Fakhru also died.
Aww.
He apparently got cholera and not poisoning. However, what are the symptoms of cholera?
Oh, constant vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration, the inability to eat.
Wow! Does
Okay.
that sound familiar, folks?
We're not insinuating anything except for the fact that we are.
Yeah. It was all pretty sus.
Yeah. Yikes, man. Just yikes.
So it became pretty clear to everyone, except for Bahadur Shah, that something was up with Zeenat. I don't
Love
understand
is
how blind.
blind.
I was just, okay.
Yeah, it is have you seen the Netflix show?
God, no.
Oh. Anyway, Nisha, after, before
bye.
the new season of Riverdale. Okay, fine.
So, but like, how perfect was the timing that, the people just keep dropping dead? And
Wow.
all of these people were people that Zeenat didn't like.
Wow,
Coinkydink.
what a coincidence. Coinkydink indeed.
Among the East India Company folks, Zeenat Mahal's culpability was pretty much a given, which meant that now she was absolutely hated by the Britishers as well.
Wow, what a wonderful enemy to make. Good job, girl. So at this point, her son, Mirza Jawan Bakht, was only about 12 years old. But in order to protect his, the overall lineage, Bahadur Shah was kind of pushed to pick an heir like ASAP. So Zeenat obviously said, just right there. And Bahadur was like, fine, bro, I'll do it. So at the time, the Governor General of India was James Braun Ramsay, or as we might know him better, the Marquis of Dalhousie. Nisha, do you know who Dalhousie was?
I know the place.
Where?
Dalhousie? There's a place, no?
Oh, yeah, I think there is.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't remember. But Lord Dalhousie, you might remember this from history, is the guy who wrote the Doctrine of Lapse. Yeah. So basically, the Doctrine of Lapse said that if an Indian princely state was found not to have a direct male heir, or the ruler was found manifestly incompetent, whatever that means, then the East India Company could annex the lands of that ruler and depose the ruler immediately.
Yeah, I haven't heard of the Doctrine of Lapse since like 10th grade. And honestly, history was not my strongest subject. But just like listening to this just makes me so angry right now.
Yeah, that's how they also felt back in the day, them
I'm
Indians.
sure.
Yeah, so in order to get Mirza Jawan Bakht to be put in the position of heir apparent, it didn't matter if Zeenat was like, please, because it wasn't up to Zeenat.
Right.
The thing is, that's what Zeenat didn't really realize. She kind of had zero power, but she had the overall confidence and audacity of someone who ruled all of India. I don't know where this was coming from.
I feel like more women should have like 2% of that. Just for self-esteem.
That's true.
Case.
That's true. Just like, forget that, dude. Even if I could get like a drop of her sweat in my head.
God.
I mean, I don't know why that was very specific.
There's a thing where like apparently when women look for jobs, they have to make sure that they are 100% meeting the requirements. And men will look at it and say like, 60-70%, it's fine, I'll apply. So...
wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was some research. I will figure out where it is. But I'm just saying, I feel like Zeenat is one of those people who looked at, King of India? Yes, that can be my job.
Yeah. And I will rule through my child.
Yes.
Because who cares about this stupid kid? It was basically like that. So basically what was happening now is Zeenat's opinion didn't really matter because Bahadur Shah needed the, actual technical ruler to sort of give consent to this, which is Lord Dalhousie, who was representing the Queen. Now, in an absolutely humiliating letter, Bahadur had to write to Dalhousie, essentially begging him to allow Mirza Jawan to take the throne. And by this point, Bahadur Shah is old, right? He's 81, basically like at death's door. 81? How did he survive that long? I don't know.
Long, yeah.
Yeah, and he basically asked Dalhousie to please ensure that Zeenat, and the other consorts as well as all of his children were kept, safe and well cared for after his death. But that didn't happen. Instead, Dalhousie's reply was, "The grants which your majesty has made to the Begums and prince, your majesty must be sensible, cannot be upheld. They may be maintained during your majesty's own lifetime, but cannot now be extended beyond that."
So let me get this straight. Zeenat may have killed the Brits and their heir apparent in order to make sure that the son could get the throne.
Yeah.
But by killing the only person who actually could inherit the Mughal kingdom, she made sure that the Doctrine of Lapse would automatically deny her child the throne. And it would also deny the entire Mughal royal family access to their own lands and titles.
Yeah.
So she basically lost the entire kingdom for the Mughals. Wow.
That felt appropriate to say. I don't know why I did that. Yeah, and also about a year later, things started to go so much more wrong for Bahadur Shah. The fragile sort of alliance, I want to say, that he had with the British was ruined when the 1857 revolt happened. The mutineers, as Nisha mentioned earlier, they marched into Delhi, slayed hundreds of non-Indians that they could find, and even ransacked the Metcalfe House.
Matka House.
Yes, the Matka House. And then they went to the Red Fort and proclaimed Bahadur Shah the Shahenshah of India. And now the Mughals and Brits are actually at war.
But you know what you don't need to be in war with, listeners?
What? What is it?
The various other podcasts on the IVM Podcast Network.
These segments are getting worse every time.
Let's go listen to some of them. Welcome back after the break. We hope you are not at war with... Okay, you know what? I'm dropping that. So now, when the rebellions proclaimed Bahadur Shah as their king on 11th May 1857, Zeenat became suspicious. She knew that the whole rebellion situation would not be able to last for very long. Definitely not when the British had such an organized army.
Yep.
She also suspected that the Indian sepoys that formed the rebellion were mostly just very angry. They weren't looking for a rightful leader to take over. In fact, the only reason that they came to Bahadur was because he had very largely liberal views about religion.
Okay.
He had no administrative experience because he'd been a puppet all his life.
Right. Yeah.
She was also very worried that Bahadur Shah was not a military leader. Even if somehow he managed to rally the troops, would they even listen to a man who's never fought in a battle before?
I know I wouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, peacetime makes soft men. Some nonsense. There is some quote like that, right?
That's terrible. Peacetime makes just normal people without trauma. Congratulations. Just
Andrew Tating it out there.
Man, this Andrew Tate is everywhere, even though he's in jail. What is going on?
So before all of this could fall on its face, Zeenat took away her son from the palace and she kept him away from the rebels.
I mean, the smartest thing she's done this whole time.
So far. In the meantime, some other sons of Bahadur Shah became military leaders for the rebels.
Okay.
But they were immediately rejected by them and it just did not amount to much.
Man, at this point, Bahadur Shah was literally just like this figurehead. Like there's nothing else for him, right? Yeah.
So sad. I mean, for him.
Yes.
But just days later, on 16th May 1857, the rebels rounded up about 52 Europeans who were palace prisoners and insisted that they be executed. Bahadur Shah was staunchly against it, but the rebels did not listen and executed all 52 men and women under a peepal tree in front of the palace.
Damn. And that was the straw that broke the British camel's back.
Yes.
The horses. I don't know.
The horse.
Anyway,
Lion?
as they...
What is there? What is an animal that's English?
That's English?
A gopher?
Why? An animal that's English. I don't know, like a cucumber.
That's not an animal.
Just a cucumber with googly eyes on it. Sounds so British.
Yeah,
And a
that
hat.
one. Yeah, the monocle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. It's the straw that broke the British cucumber.
This is very serious, guys. I mean, Nisha. Anyway, as their official leader, Bahadur Shah had no choice but to take responsibility for the killings. Wow, our tone was really messed up in this moment. Okay, let's take a step back, everyone.
Yes.
The rebels killed 52 men and women at the palace, and Bahadur Shah was forced to take responsibility for the killings. So his official seal of approval, so to speak, which he didn't actually give, the British sort of felt by just sort of acquiescing to allow this to happen in the palace, the British felt this was enough to label him as a traitor to the East India Company and the British crown.
I mean, they just needed a reason, right?
They did. They just literally needed one thing,
Yeah.
And Delhi was put under siege immediately. By 20th September 1857, the city fell to the British. And Bahadur Shah at the time took refuge at Humayun's tomb in the outskirts of Delhi, which, by the way, is one of my favorite places in the world. If you go there, please make sure you get a cream bell ice cream sandwich outside. Take 2. Go all the way in, sit under that tree which has the parrots under it. Which tree is that? Yes, is the answer. And have a great time. And Bahadur Shah was picked up at Humayun's tomb by an army officer named Major William Hodgson. And basically, he surrounded the tomb and captured the emperor. Soon after, Zeenat and Mirza Bakht were also found in her Haveli in Old Delhi. And Bahadur and his wife and his son were all imprisoned together. Now, 21st September, literally the day after, Major Hodgson also tracked down and killed 2 of the emperor's sons and 1 grandson.
Ah, damn.
Yeah, and this was actually a pretty wild killing. The spot actually came to be known as Khuni Darwaza because of just how violent it all ended up being. And the heads of the princes were brought before Bahadur Shah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
It's really heavy, yeah. And soon after that, he was charged with treason and forced into exile to Rangoon in 1858. Today we know Rangoon as Burma or Myanmar.
By the way, you mentioned Zeenat Mahal's Haveli, right? Is there in present day Chandni Chowk? I mean,
Yeah.
whatever is left of it, basically.
Yeah. Can you imagine this was a time when Chandni Chowk was the exterior
Yeah.
of Delhi? That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
also, I think it's just one darwaza, right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. Yeah. That's,
But
I don't think there's much to it. Yeah.
no, the space has been taken over by a a part of the space has been taken over by a Zeenat Mahal girls' school. So that's kind of nice.
That's kind of sweet. Is it at least a public school?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, knowing Zeenat, it should be a school of murder and
God.
poisoning. I don't know. Sorry. I hope the girls are having a great time there. Please educate your children.
Now, although everything looked so sad, Zeenat Mahal's optimism didn't really go anywhere. It was like,
Sure.
there's no way to go but up. So she was firmly of the belief that the rebellion would be crushed and that her son would succeed the throne. So delusional was this woman that she made a public show of outrightly not supporting the rebels. That way, she could have claimed that, no, I'm still loyal to the Britishers the whole time.
Oh, sure.
Except she forgot that the Brits knew about her casual poisoning escapades.
That's true.
And the Brits were also not, honorable men.
Double true.
So they promptly just exiled both Zeenat and her son immediately.
Yeah, sounds about it. I cannot believe she thought, wow, the British would be like, come
swear.
rule this kingdom. What's wrong with her?
And for good measure, in 1862, they passed a law banning anyone from ever claiming the title of emperor in India again.
Yikes.
And thus, the Mughal Empire came to a screeching halt, being completely taken over by the Crown of Britain.
Man, dude, honestly, if you really think about it, I don't know if any of this is really in Zeenat's sort of control. I mean, of course, she thought it was, but I don't really know. But also, she had somehow orchestrated a way to get Mirza on the throne. Do you think it would have worked?
Not at all.
Yeah.
The guy is so selfish and he thinks he's so important, right? There's no way he would have been listening to his mom. She would have had to pull one of those, here, have this vegetable soup, which is not poisoned. So, yeah.
Man, the thing is, I feel terrible because at least she tried. And even if it was very coy and background way of doing it, honestly, most women could only do that at that time,
True.
But yes, you go on.
It wasn't smart.
It wasn't smart.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. It was, but again, I mean, how much power did she really have? And also, she was married so young.
So I am comparing her to Emperor Wu Zetian.
I figured, yeah.
Right.
That's not fair though.
But look how amazingly she did. And then this girl is just he.
No, but Wu Zetian already had an empire that was so vast to just sort of go sit on the throne and be like, hey, it's me now. That was kind of it. Zeenat didn't really have that luxury, right? The country was gone. There was nothing. They literally only had the Red Fort and they couldn't even wear their own jewels in there. It was really sad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Eventually, Zeenat, her husband and her son spent the rest of their years in Rangoon. Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal ruler, died on 7th November 1862 at the age of 82. He died in exile from his home country. Now, Zeenat lived on for another 24 years, passing away on 17 July 1886. She was 63 at the time.
Wow.
Now, unfortunately, before her own passing, she had to witness the death of her son, Mirza Jawan Bakht, in September 1884. Yeah, he was only 43. It must have really hurt, to have to see the child you thought would be king die
with
before
all those
you.
hopes.
Yeah, it's really awful. Zeenat is buried in Rangoon, Myanmar today. She's buried with her husband near the Shwedagon Pagoda in Dagon Township in Myanmar. And the site is actually now known as Bahadur Shah Zafar Dargah.
So it appears that the tomb was actually hidden for a very long time. It was discovered again only in 1991. Not sure why. Maybe it was just assumed that rebels might use the tomb as a monument to their former king.
Okay.
But realistically, India was far away from the notion of a king by this point.
Yeah.
Even the rebels in 1857 mutiny were not particularly respectful towards Bahadur Shah or his family.
True.
They just needed a figurehead for the revolt and they got one. But it's not like they listened to him or anything.
Yeah.
Which makes us wonder why Zeenat, who was, I guess, smart enough to participate in palace affairs and external exercises to protect her family, why did she not see where the country was headed? And yeah, like you said, even if her son did ascend the throne, where was he going to rule? The four walls of the Red Fort? Not even all of Delhi belonged to the Mughals anymore.
Yeah. And like we said earlier, she saw how her husband slowly lost so much power and influence over the years. Like she saw him begging Dalhousie to allow their son to maybe consider succeeding him. She saw him humiliated as the king. So what were you thinking?
I don't know, maybe just the illusion of power is just as addictive as actual power. And that's likely the reason for Zeenat and the Mughal Empire's eventual downfall.
Wow. That's beautiful, Nisha. Let's maybe take that moment into the musical recap.
Let's go.
Two, three, four. Just a little girl in my royal world, married at just 18. I'm a Mughal queen. Looking back at all my choices, yes, I would do it again. Want my boy to be king, diamonds and everything. Brits are in my way, so I will make them pay. Serving soup with some poison, but I would do it again. Because I'm Zeenat Mahal. Yes, I am Zeenat, and I would do it again. Rebel forces are here, time to disappear. Hubby's caught in a mess, well, let me guess. Now we're exiled for being traitors. Here we go again. Because I'm Zeenat Mahal. Yes, I am Zeenat, and I would do it again and again and again. Say what?
Damn.
All right.
Nisha, what soulful lyrics.
Okay.
While you just beat apart Zeenat, kind of. I mean, it's fine. I kind of get it. It's tragic, but it is what it is. It's terrible. And it is also the downfall of the entire Mughal Empire. So that sucks. But
You know what doesn't suck?
I knew you were going to do that. God damn it. Tell me, what doesn't suck, Nisha? Tell us.
Our podcast. You can listen to all of the other episodes, season 1, 2, and 3 on the IVM Podcast Network or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Sorry. And also, we are on everything from Spotify to Apple to Audible, any place that lets you leave a review for us. We are there. YouTube, leave us a comment. On Spotify, give us 5 stars. You will not allow less than that. I'm
We
watching
are
you.
also as delusional.
Indeed, I'm watching you. If you gave us a 4, I will find you.
You are getting soup. But also you can reach out to us on Instagram. We are at Misconduct Pod. We love listening to you guys. Give us tidbits of information, stuff that we may have missed out as well. So you can reach out to us on Instagram as well.
That's true. And please, we have been getting so many comments about who to cover. That's amazing because thanks for doing part of our research, guys. So that was really helpful. Please keep doing that. It helps us be engaged with you and we can anticipate what you guys want in future episodes. And that's really awesome.
And we will see you on the next episode of Misconduct.